Gloria Horsley, and my guest today is Sharon Taylor. She's a professor of psychology and the chair of the Women's Studies at St. Martin's University in Olympia, Washington. And our topic today is father loss. Well, Sharon, your father was killed in World War II and you were only 3 weeks old.
Right.
Wow. How's that impacted your life?
The single biggest impact was that everyone in my family, I was an infant, and everyone in my family began to mourn and to grieve, and there was no place to put it. In 1945, when this happened right at the very end of the war, no one dealt with that issue of war. It was very sad. It was happening to everyone. And so as a result, I was raised by a grieving mother who never had a chance to do anything about it except know that it happened. And so she moved on, and everyone around me was always very sad about my father and always very confused about what happened to him because the information about him was unknown.
So they hadn't found his body yet?
No, they never found his body. He was declared missing in action in April of 45 when he was killed, and then in October they declared everyone who was missing in action as dead.
Oh, wow. And how have you met other people that this has happened to? And
I have, but not until recently, probably within the last decade or so. I joined an organization called the American War Orphans Network, and it's a network of people just like me whose fathers were killed in World War II.
Wow. So that must have been quite a search for him.
I began really as a child with my own questions, and the good news was that my grandmother and my grandfather, his parents, were very happy to talk about him. My mother was not so happy to talk about him, but the vision that I had as a little girl was to bring him home, because I knew he was out there somewhere. I wasn't sure that he wasn't alive. That's the fantasy that we carry as war orphan kids, that we're not certain if we don't know what happened, and we didn't have a funeral, or no one told us about a funeral. So my lingering question throughout my childhood was, well, if he's not home yet, then I think I'd better go get him. And that's what began this whole question on my mind.
So did you go to Europe, or what happened?
I did. In the late 1990s, after both my mother and my stepfather died, I felt that I could go out on this journey and look for him. And I'd begun to do doctoral research about the true effects of father loss in war. And so through the members of my father's squadron, who I also found at that time, I was connected to a German researcher who looked for crashed American planes. And in finding him, I found the exact threads that I needed to tie this all together, and eventually he helped me find my father's crash site.
Oh my goodness, you found the site. What an
Yes.
experience. How was that for you when you got there?
Awesome. Completely awesome. And somehow not surprising, because he crashed in a field that remained exactly as it was from 1945 until the year 2000. And nothing had changed. The field was still owned by the same people. People remembered the crash. People remembered his body. People remembered things that were just gifts to me.
Wow. And did that bring you closure on it, as they say? Closure?
As they say. No, no, not really. And people ask me that constantly, because we were working on a documentary film about my search for and recovery of my father. And everyone asks me every day, oh, are you finished now? Does this do it? And all it does, and this is for me and all war orphaned kids, is that it just gives us information. It doesn't stop anything. Our fathers are still not back. Nothing is different than it was yesterday, but we know more, and that's the good news.
Now, what would you say to me if I'm seeing your documentary or whatever, and should I go look for my father, or what would you suggest to people who've lost dads?
That's a great question. It depends on how much information you have now and how resourceful you are, and if you're tenacious and if you are unafraid of asking questions of everyone and waiting for what you want for a while and then going back and asking again. I went everywhere from John McCain's office to the mayors of towns in Germany. I mean, I just went everywhere to find all the information that I needed.
So in closing, do you have any thoughts for people out there who've lost a dad?
If your father has been lost in war and you didn't know about American War Orphans Network, join and we'll help you. We'll support you, at least emotionally, and then there'll be someone in our group who can certainly give you the type of support you need in terms of searching if you need to. We're not the majority of people, those of us who didn't know what happened to our fathers, but there are certainly enough of us that we understand it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I sat down by the water, a cold wind in my face. the ground still hard with winter. Of spring there was no trace. I swear I saw a blazing light ascending from the shore, with a color so familiar. I had seen this light before. Like there never was a sun, with a still